Have you ever walked into a room and instantly known who was lying, who was in pain, and who was about to break, without a single word being spoken? You didn't ask for it. You didn't train for it. Yet, while everyone else reacts to the surface conversation, your brain is quietly cataloging micro-expressions, subtle shifts in posture, vocal pitch variance, and the exact moment someone's body language contradicts their words. Most people call this empathy. In popular culture, empathy is framed as a soft, passive, almost gentle quality. We treat it like a moral trait or a warm personality characteristic. That is a dangerous mistake. True, high-level empathy isn't a personality trait. It is a biological radar system. It is advanced perceptual acuity, the subconscious processing of thousands of micro-behavioral cues every single second. It is a psychological superpower. And like any real power, if you don't control it, it controls you. Here is the dark truth that nobody talks about. The human brain is hardwired to exploit unmanaged perceptual awareness. When you walk into a room and absorb every unexpressed emotion, every suppressed insecurity, and every hidden motive of the people around you, you aren't just feeling them, you are receiving intelligence. But because you've been told this is just sensitivity, you leave your system completely unguarded. You absorb the toxic load of everyone else's uncalibrated psychological states, and then you wonder why you feel drained, isolated, and instinctively compelled to retreat into solitude. You become the solitary empath. You withdraw not because you dislike people, but because your perceptual hardware is running at 100% capacity in a world operating at 10%. You carry a gift that makes you exceptionally observant, deeply influential, and nearly impossible to deceive. So why must you hide it? Because the moment people realize you can see through their psychological armor, their survival instincts kick in. Unconscious human dynamic laws dictate that when an individual feels completely perceived by someone else, they feel stripped of control. If they know you hold the key to their hidden motives, they won't admire you. They will attempt to neutralize, isolate, or exploit you. In this breakdown, we are going to dissect the behavioral mechanics of the solitary empath. We will cover the physiological reason your brain processes human behavior faster than average, how to convert raw emotional overload into actionable psychological intelligence, the exact behavioral protocol to cloak your acuity so you can navigate high-stakes social and professional environments with total stealth and authority. By the time you finish this, you will never view your sensitivity as a weakness again. You will understand it for what it truly is, a dangerous asset that requires tactical management. Let's begin with a fundamental principle of human behavior. The most powerful person in any room is the one paying the most attention while appearing to pay the least. Right now, as you listen to this, your brain is running a set of background programs. You are picking up on pitch, cadence, eye movement, and posture. For most people, those cues pass right through their subconscious without ever hitting awareness. They register a gut feeling or a vague impression, and they move on. But if you are a solitary empath, that isn't what happens. Your baseline state is different. You read the room like a tactical grid. You see the flash of contempt before a smile finishes forming. You spot the micro-shrug that betrays uncertainty in a confident pitch. You sense the suppressed panic behind someone's calm voice. You notice the precise millisecond a person's baseline shifts from open to defensive. It feels heavy. It feels like a burden you never asked to carry. And right now you might be asking, if this is a gift, why does it feel like a curse? Why does it leave me exhausted? And why do I feel the overwhelming urge to retreat away from everyone? Stay right here. Do not look away, because in the next few minutes, I am going to give you the exact operational mechanics behind why your mind works this way, and more importantly, the critical reason you must never let the world see the full depth of what you perceive. If you leave now, you will keep running the same broken loop, absorbing everyone else's noise, retreating in burnout, and wondering why your gift keeps burning you out. Pay close attention. To understand why you must conceal this ability, you first have to understand what it actually is. In behavioral profiling, we look at human interactions as a continuous stream of data. Every gesture, every blink rate modification, every vocal tone shift is a signpost indicating internal state changes. Most humans operate on low resolution. They hear words, look at expressions, and accept the surface presentation at face value. The solitary empath operates in high resolution. Your mirror neuron system and autonomic observation pathways run at maximum capacity. You aren't just watching a person speak, you are tracking their nervous system in real time. This is the forbidden gift. It is forbidden because it breaks the fundamental rule of social interaction, the illusion of the mask. Society functions on agreed-upon pretense. People put on a facade of confidence, kindness, or composure to navigate their day. When you look at them, you don't just see the facade, you see the structure behind it. Here is where the danger lies. When you walk into a social or professional setting with high perceptual acuity, you project a quiet, undeniable baseline of awareness. Even if you don't say a word, human beings possess an evolutionary instinct for being observed. When an individual realizes, consciously or unconsciously, that their mask isn't working on you, their brain registers a threat. Think about the psychological mechanics. The mask represents control. It protects their insecurities, motives, and status. Your vision bypasses the mask. The result: their subconscious brain flags you as an unpredictable variable. If you make it obvious that you see through people, they will not respect you for your depth. They will instinctively feel exposed. They will label you as intimidating, off-putting, or difficult. They will attempt to discredit your perceptions, push you to the fringe, or manipulate the dynamic to regain control. This is why so many empaths end up isolated. You were taught that being open and sensitive was a virtue, so you showed up with your radar fully visible. The world responded with pushback, and so you retreated into solitude to protect yourself. Solitude is a refuge, but total withdrawal is a waste of your capabilities. The solution is not to shut down your perceptual gift, it is to cloak it. You must learn the discipline of behavioral camouflage. Camouflage means you gather intelligence without broadcasting that you are gathering it. You maintain maximum internal acuity while projecting complete baseline normalcy. Here is your 3-step operational protocol. Down-regulate your outward reaction. When you spot a lie, a micro-expression, or an insecurity, train your facial muscles to remain completely neutral. Never give away that you just received a high-value data point. Match the ambient energy. Mirror the baseline relaxation of the environment. If the room is casual, look casual. The less attention you draw to your focus, the more raw data people will display in front of you. Use solitude as a decontaminant, not a hideout. Use your alone time purposefully, not to hide from the world out of fear, but to process the data you collected, discharge accumulated stress, and reset your baseline. Your high sensitivity was never meant to make you a victim of other people's emotional baggage. It was meant to make you a master observer of human nature. Stop wearing your awareness on your sleeve. Stop telling people how much you feel, and stop confronting them with what you perceive before you have a strategic reason to do so. Keep your eyes open, keep your radar running, but keep your hands on the controls. Put on the posture of the ordinary, maintain the mind of the profiler, and treat your empathy not as a fragile vulnerability, but as the quiet, hidden weapon it was always meant to be. Empathy is universally marketed as an emotional quality, a soft-hearted disposition, or a warm personality trait that allows someone to feel what another person feels. That definition is not only inaccurate, but it is also precisely why people with high sensitivity find themselves perpetually exhausted and overwhelmed. When you strip away the romanticized language, human empathy in its highest form is not a feeling at all. It is a biological data processing system operating in high definition. It is hyperacuity to thousands of subtle, nonverbal indicators that the human body continuously leaks into the environment every second of every day. Every individual you interact with carries an internal baseline. This baseline consists of their standard vocal pitch, breathing rhythm, blink rate, muscle tension, spatial positioning, and micro-gestural habits. Most people walk through the world operating on low resolution, receiving only the macro signals, the explicit words spoken, the broad smile, or the deliberate gesture. A high acuity observer, however, is constantly recording the variance between a person's baseline and their real-time behavioral adjustments. When a person tells a half-truth, their blink rate momentarily spikes or drops. When someone experiences a flash of suppressed anger, the micromuscles around the jaw compress for less than 1/5 of a second. When an individual feels insecure, their feet subtly turn toward the exit, or their hands move to cover their suprasternal notch. For the average person, these signals pass completely beneath conscious awareness, registering only as a vague, inexplicable gut instinct. For you, these signals are received in high fidelity. Your mirror neuron network and autonomic observation pathways operate at maximum capacity, continuously converting physical behavior into psychological intelligence. You are not simply listening to a conversation, you are decoding an ongoing stream of biological telemetry. You register the micro-expression of contempt before the conscious mind of the speaker can suppress it. You detect the vocal pitch shift that reveals anxiety long before the speaker admits to feeling nervous. You notice the exact millisecond a person shifts from open engagement to defensive protection. This level of perception is fundamentally an intelligence-gathering function. Just as radar scans an airspace for deviations, your nervous system scans your immediate environment for psychological and behavioral anomalies. The reason this feels so intensely heavy to carry is that your brain treats every single piece of detected behavior as a real-time variable that must be calculated and accounted for. While everyone else in the room is reacting exclusively to the surface narrative, your mind is running background algorithms on the hidden motives, underlying stress levels, and emotional fault lines of every person present. Empathy is not a passive state of feeling sorry for someone. It is the subconscious processing of complex human behavior at a speed and depth that far exceeds standard social interaction. Recognizing this reality is the first crucial step toward mastering your perception, because once you understand that empathy is high-definition data collection rather than emotional fragility, you can stop treating it as a burden and start managing it as a precise analytical system. The perceptual paradox is the hidden engine behind the physical and mental fatigue experienced by individuals with heightened behavioral acuity. To understand why this exhaustion occurs, you must look at how the human brain allocates its processing power. In standard human interaction, a person listens to words, formulates a response, and pays minimal attention to nonverbal cues. This requires a relatively low expenditure of cognitive energy. However, when your perceptual system is running at high resolution, your brain does not merely listen, it actively tracks, measures, and calculates every micro-behavioral shift in your environment in real time. Every detected microexpression, every change in vocal cadence, and every subtle increase in muscle tension is treated by your nervous system as an active variable. When you enter a room with 5, 10, or 20 people, your mind isn't just taking in the macro-level social dynamic. It is simultaneously processing dozens of hidden psychological states. You are registering one person's suppressed resentment, another person's quiet panic, and a third person's veiled insecurity. Because your autonomic pathways do not filter this incoming data stream, your brain automatically attempts to manage and solve these unspoken variables as if they were immediate environmental factors. This creates a state of continuous cognitive hypervigilance. Your system is constantly adjusting its internal baseline to match, evaluate, or compensate for the dysregulated psychological states of those around you. It is the functional equivalent of running 50 demanding applications in the background of a computer operating system while trying to execute a simple task on the desktop. The hardware inevitably overheats, processing speed drops, and system battery drains at an exponential rate. This is why a simple social gathering or a routine business meeting can leave you feeling as physically battered as hours of hard labor. The paradox deepens because most high-acuity individuals mistake this processing overload for an emotional failing. You have likely spent years believing that you are simply thin-skinned, overly sensitive, or incapable of handling social environments. You blame yourself for needing to pull away, retreat, or go silent. In reality, your burnout has nothing to do with emotional fragility and everything to do with computational overload. Your brain is attempting to regulate an environment full of uncalibrated human dynamics without your conscious permission. The constant, rapid-fire intake of subtle, non-verbal stress signals keeps your amygdala perpetually engaged, tricking your nervous system into believing you are navigating a continuous series of low-grade threats. When you fail to recognize this paradox, you remain trapped in a destructive loop. You enter a social setting, your perceptual hardware immediately begins harvesting high-definition behavioral data, your subconscious attempts to manage all the unexpressed stress in the room, and within an hour, your cognitive reserves are completely spent. You retreat into isolation to recover, only to repeat the exact same pattern the next time you step out. The exhaustion you feel is the direct biological cost of running an advanced, unregulated surveillance system on an endless loop, treating every unsaid word and hidden emotion as a problem that your brain must immediately process, evaluate, and resolve. The threat response is the fundamental mechanism that governs how people react when they encounter someone who can see past their social exterior. Human society operates on an unspoken social contract where individuals present a carefully constructed mask, a curated identity designed to project confidence, competence, composure, and status. This mask serves as a psychological shield, protecting the person's deepest insecurities, secret motives, and unaddressed fears from public view. For the average person, this social shield works completely fine because most people only interact with the surface layer of human communication. When an individual with high perceptual acuity enters the picture, that social dynamic breaks down entirely. Even if you say nothing, your eyes, your posture, and your quiet baseline of calm observation communicate that you are not buying the surface presentation. Your nonverbal tracking registers the microexpression of contempt hiding behind a polite smile, the slight tremor in the hands that betrays intense panic, or the false cadence in a forced voice. Consciously or subconsciously, the other person feels this perception penetrating their armor. The moment a human being realizes that their mask is ineffective, their subconscious brain flags the situation as a direct threat to their status and control. In behavioral science, when a person feels exposed, their survival mechanisms immediately activate. The brain registers the loss of its social shield in the exact same way it registers physical vulnerability. Because their carefully constructed facade no longer guarantees safety or dominance, their nervous system shifts into a defensive posture. They do not look at your deep insight and feel admiration or gratitude. They experience existential discomfort. You become an unpredictable variable in their environment, someone who holds an asymmetric advantage over them because you possess accurate intelligence about their internal state while they remain blind to yours. This threat response manifests in specific, highly predictable behavioral patterns. Some people will attempt to regain control through subtle aggression, attempting to undermine your credibility, interrupt you, or mock your quiet demeanor to reestablish dominance. Others will practice social exclusion, labeling you as weird, untrustworthy, intimidating, or hard to read, effectively trying to isolate you before you can expose them. A third group will attempt to overcompensate through performative friendliness or aggressive charm, trying to probe your boundaries to see if they can manipulate what you know. Understanding this biological reaction is critical to navigating human dynamics. You must realize that when people react to you with hostility, coldness, or subtle sabotage, it is rarely personal. It is an instinctual attempt to neutralize someone who holds an uninvited window into their vulnerabilities. The average person will go to extraordinary lengths to defend their social mask, and if your presence threatens to tear that mask away, they will reflexively view you as an enemy that must be neutralized, discredited, or driven into the background. Strategic neutrality is the operational discipline that allows a high-acuity observer to exist in high-stakes environments without triggering the defensive radar of those around them. Once you accept that human beings become hostile when they feel exposed, you realize that possessing deep perceptual insight is only half the equation. The other half, the far more critical half, is mastering behavioral camouflage. Strategic neutrality is the practice of maintaining maximum internal situational awareness while intentionally projecting a completely unreadable, unremarkable, and non-threatening exterior. To execute this, you must first master your own physical output. The human brain is an extraordinary pattern recognition machine. Just as you track others, their subconscious is continuously reading your posture, eye movements, and facial tension. When you perceive a hidden lie or spot an insecurity, your natural inclination might be to lock eye contact, lean forward, or let a subtle micro-expression of realization cross your face. The moment you do this, you broadcast that you have acquired high-value data. Under the protocol of strategic neutrality, you do the exact opposite. When you catch a significant behavioral tell, your facial muscles must remain entirely relaxed, your breathing pattern must stay steady, and your posture must reflect total, casual indifference. This requires you to cultivate what behavioral profilers call a zero baseline presence. You do not project aggressive confidence, which invites challenge, nor do you project meek submissiveness, which invites exploitation. Instead, you project ambient normalcy. You match the general tempo, tone, and energy of the room. By blending seamlessly into the background social noise, you lower the perceived threat level of everyone present. People only guard their secrets and shore up their masks when they feel they are being actively scrutinized. When you present yourself as an ordinary, relaxed, and mildly unobservant participant, the people around you drop their psychological defenses. They stop managing their micro-expressions, they relax their vocal control, and they freely leak raw, unedited behavioral intelligence right in front of you. Furthermore, strategic neutrality requires absolute verbal discipline. Having the ability to see through someone's facade creates a powerful temptation to prove it, to make a sharp observation, call out a contradiction, or drop a subtle hint that you know what is really happening. Yielding to this temptation is an amateur mistake. Revealing your intelligence without a clear tactical objective destroys your advantage and immediately transforms you into a target. In strategic neutrality, knowledge is kept in reserve. You collect the data, analyze the hidden motives, and store the intelligence without ever feeling the ego-driven need to display it. By practicing behavioral camouflage, you turn your perceptual acuity into a stealth operation. You become an invisible observer in plain sight, fully aware of every underlying dynamic in the room while remaining entirely unnoticeable yourself. You allow others to believe their masks are working perfectly, granting them the illusion of control, while you quietly retain the ultimate strategic upper hand. Operational discipline is the practice of converting solitude from a passive retreat into a deliberate, high-value protocol for mental calibration and intelligence management. For most high-acuity individuals, isolation is used as an escape hatch, a desperate reaction to the sensory and emotional exhaustion caused by being around uncalibrated human dynamics. You feel overwhelmed by the overwhelming noise of the world, so you collapse into your personal space to hide until your energy slowly returns. This passive isolation is a fundamentally defensive posture, and as long as you view solitude merely as a place to hide from the world, you will remain trapped in a fragile cycle of social exposure followed by complete burnout. True mastery over your perceptual hardware requires you to fundamentally reframe the function of alone time. Solitude is not a place to hide from a threat. It is a controlled environment designed for system de-escalation, data processing, and psychological sovereignty. When you step away from social interactions, your autonomic nervous system remains in a heightened state of vigilance, still attempting to process the backlog of nonverbal data, microexpressions, and underlying tension you accumulated throughout the day. If you do not actively manage this transition, your brain will continue running those high-intensity processing routines in the background, leaving you feeling anxious and fatigued even while sitting alone in a quiet room. To practice operational discipline, you must treat your personal time as an active reset procedure. The first phase of this procedure is complete physiological de-escalation. You must consciously signal to your nervous system that the surveillance phase is officially over. This is achieved by lowering environmental stimulation, regulating your respiratory baseline through slow, deliberate breathing, and releasing physical tension held in the jaw, shoulders, and core. By physically downshifting your body, you force your brain to step down from hypervigilance, stopping the continuous loop of threat analysis that drains your baseline reserves. The second phase of operational discipline is structured data offloading. Rather than letting the day's behavioral observations clutter your mind as a chaotic fog of unexpressed emotions and gut feelings, you compartmentalize them. You review what you observed objectively, the pitch shifts that indicated hidden stress, the baseline contradictions that revealed false confidence, and the underlying motives operating beneath surface conversations. By examining these data points with detached analytical clarity, you transform raw, overwhelming sensory input into structured intelligence. You stop asking, "Why did that interaction feel so heavy?" and start asking, "What specific behavioral data did my brain pick up? And what does it tell me about the dynamic?" Once that intelligence is analyzed, the final phase is total mental detachment. You intentionally discard the emotional noise attached to those interactions, refusing to carry the dysregulated states of other people into your personal space. Operational discipline ensures that your solitude serves as an impenetrable fortress where you reclaim complete control over your attention, restore your cognitive reserves, and sharpen your perceptual capabilities for when you choose to step back onto the field.